is trying to meet the current demands, and we are trying to finance the backlog, so to speak, through a new facility that we are now negotiating. If we can therefore get to that stage, then the demands of the gas subsidy will not be as strong as it is at this point in time, and that's the strategy that I'm developing. There is therefore no cause for concern about the removal of gas subsidies.
Now, Minister Dukran, as it relates to CLECO and the exit strategy, that remains a topic that continues to question or be a question on all of the leading economic minds in Trinidad and Tobago. What is the government's exit strategy for the CLECO situation?
Well, if I had succumbed to those who wanted us to maintain a full responsibility for dealing with the policyholders and dealing with them now, I think we would not have been in the position that we are in today, where we have a relatively stable fiscal house. Having said that, the exit strategy is based on a number of different pillars, and I think, I don't know how much time you have with me here today, but it's based on dealing with the depositors, both the small depositors and the larger depositors, as well as the credit unions and the trade unions, as well as the compassionate relief for those who have extenuating medical or other concerns regarding the fact that they don't have that source of income. As I indicated on a previous occasion, that I think over 200 plus individuals have sourced that support of $250,000 on criteria that has been established and administered by the CLECO operation. The other aspect of the exit strategy is to try to prepare the CLECO as an insurance company so that it can live on its own, so to speak.
Is that still a fleeting dream at this time, CLECO living on its own?
Absolutely not. I am of the view that that is quite possible, and the evidence that I've seen over the last 6 months or so is suggesting that we can, in fact, prepare that company to give it a life of its own and a commercial viability. That's the second component of it. The third component of the strategy has to deal with how would the government recoup its investment in CLECO. All over the world, haircuts are being large. Here we are trying to manage it and have a reasonable haircut in terms of the discount rate. So the question then, how do we secure that? And this is another strategy that we are trying to develop to ensure that the assets that were in fact involved at the time of the takeover, at the time of the collapse, are made in a position that they can be positive, they can have negative net return. At this point in time, it's not yet there, but there has been some improvements with respect to some of the shareholdings in methanol and elsewhere. So it's a dynamic world, and we have gained a lot from some of these developments, but we are still not out of the woods on this matter.
Not out of the woods. I do have to ask you about a level of foreign direct investment and interest by foreign investors in light of all that is happening in the global economy. Do you think that Trinidad and Tobago will be negatively impacted at this time?
Only in the sense that the world is impacted overall, but I think we will have to see the results now of more investment in the energy sector, but also in the non-energy sector. And the interests that have been expressed over the last year on this matter continues to be one that creates a sense of comfort and optimism. So I don't anticipate that there will be a substantial falling off of foreign investment interests. But we do have to work out the arrangements to ensure that we can process these interests more efficiently and more timely.
Minister Dukran, we do have to take a very short break. We will continue this discussion when we come back. The central bank governor is stating that we must re-energize the public sector investment program. We have to kickstart the economy, that the government must prioritize its spending. Minister Dukran is saying that the economy is in a stable position, that we are not in crisis, and that there will continue to be a level of optimism, and the government will continue to do and find the right balance. Stay with us. Welcome back to Trinidad and Tobago. We are continuing to look at the economic situation in Trinidad and Tobago. Minister Dukran, while the government has described the economy as being stable, the evidence from the central bank indicates a year-on-year basis that we have registered negative growth of 1.7% following a contraction of 3.6% in the fourth quarter of 2010. In definition, in some economic quarters, it can be described as a double dip phenomenon, that is, a period of short growth, and then we go back down.
Well, not quite. I think what has happened there is that it's an acknowledgement that you had to climb out of negative growth. 2009 was 3.4% or 5%, and 2010, according to the central bank report, was negative growth. And 2011, first quarter, did show the continuing trend, but there was an admission in the monetary policy report that we have climbed out of that, and they're talking about at least between a 1% and 2% growth for 2010. Now, that is evidence. You do not change the growth trajectory of a country without changing the trends of behavior in that country. And therefore, that is what has happened. We have been able to change the trends of behavior. And that is why we have a situation where consumer credit has now increased. And we have a situation where the housing market is beginning to get a new sense of impetus. We have a situation where the stock market is showing some buoyancy. All of these things, of course, could be dampened by the global phenomenon that we are now facing.
Are we facing a double dip recession at this time?
I don't think so. I think our trajectory will continue to show positive growth unless the world economy goes into depression.
And Minister Dukran, the central bank governor also spoke of the pace of the public sector investment program. Minister Jack Warner has been very vocal on the slowdown he has experienced as a result of the bureaucracy within the public sector. We're going to take in a clip from Minister Warner venting his concerns over what he says, simply too much red tape in the public sector.
I have no money, and as late as yesterday, I've been begging. On my knees, I've lied prostrate. I don't know what more I could do, but the fact is, for some strange reason, I have no money.
Some would say the tides have turned. Jack Warner, reputed to be the most hard-working cabinet minister, a champion of his government, is now criticizing a senior member of his own regime, Finance Minister Winston Dukran. The minister says he's being criticized by many now for not getting projects done, but says the finance minister is to blame.
A lot of people question the Ministry of Works. The Ministry of Works was going apace. You were going mile a minute. And suddenly, the money that is due to us has been dried up. For whatever reason, I don't know. To this day, we have not gotten a single nickel to do any work. And yet we are doing work on goodwill, on promises and so on. And I say this publicly for my minister to understand.
He would not go so far.
Goodwill and promises. Minister Dukran, the central bank governor, is talking about the fact that the public sector investment program must be accelerated. It is no secret that the construction sector is linked to the employment situation in Trinidad and Tobago. Minister Warner, they're venting some frustrations. How do you find the balancing act? And is there money to allocate to all of the projects?
Well, there's a process by which money, in fact, is dispersed. And that process will require ministries to utilize the allocation that was approved by Parliament. We have found that that remains a challenge for some ministries, but we will take all steps to ensure that do take place. It's rather unfortunate with the tone of Mr. Warner's comments, but as I spoke to him yesterday, I told him that the next time I have a class in Economics 101, I would be happy to discuss how this process works.
Minister Dukran, the energy sector continues to be the impetus for our economy. It is no secret that there have been advances in Russia, in Brazil. New natural gas sources are being discovered all over the world. Our economy, our energy economy is intricately linked to the natural gas and our ability to sell that on the international market. The exploration activities, a new fiscal regime was promised. We're hoping to see an explosion of interest. Has this happened? And can we expect it in the next quarter?
Well, the fiscal regime was in fact changed in the last budget to provide substantial support for the energy sector investment prospects. The end result of that has been a number of bids that have now been accepted with respect to offshore drilling, both deep sea and in the shallow areas. And that has happened over the course of this year. It will be some time before the returns to that will materialize in a real sense. There are also incentives.
So you would say that the changes in the fiscal regime have in fact had some positive results?
Definitely.
Now let's look, we have about 3 minutes again. The budget is coming up. Many are expecting the budget to be delivered very early in September, which is in about 3 weeks' time. Can you give us some insight as to when the budget will be delivered and what we can expect?
We're still doing the arithmetic.
The politically correct answer you're giving us this morning.
Well, that's the correct answer.
What can we expect, really? I mean, we're looking at changing conditions. I don't think even the budget is prepared well in advance, a month and two in advance. And now, all of this has happened within the last week. Would it now mean that you have to revisit what you were expecting to present before the nation?
Well, you never know what you're going to present until very much near to the budget day, because of the dynamics of what is happening in the world and dynamics that will affect us here. So in that sense, you're quite correct. But we are still doing the arithmetic on the issue, and we'll continue to do that. It's a lot of work that has to be done by people in the Ministry of Finance and elsewhere, in almost every ministry. And we're looking at the structure of expenditure that you made reference to earlier, a structure of expenditure that will be able to sustain what we call inclusive development.
Inclusive development. Yeah. Minister, the central bank governor also spoke about the need for a clear diversification strategy. We have been speaking about diversification in this country from time immemorial.
That's right.
What have we really achieved? And is there a clear strategy for diversification?
Well, the strategy is based on two basic premises: a low interest rate environment.
But now that may be changing in light of what is happening in the global economy.
But in Trinidad and Tobago, we have maintained a low interest rate environment. The interest rate environment of borrowing funds abroad will change. And the strategy is also based on a low interest rate environment on one hand, and the necessary fiscal incentives to generate investment in other areas. The fiscal regime that was outlined in the last budget have worked in both directions. No wonder that the inflation rate today has dropped enormously because of the policy-induced economic changes that have taken place in inflation through the low interest rate environment.
Well, Minister Dukan, we just have about a minute again. Your closing comments to Trinidad and Tobago. The central bank governor is saying that we cannot afford a national strike. Mixed picture requires economic caution. The government is expected to deliver the budget within a month's time. I'm going to say that you confirm that. What are your closing comments to Trinidad and Tobago?
I think we can be satisfied that we have reached a point where the resilience and the financial resilience of Trinidad and Tobago can sustain the repercussions that are ahead of us. But having said that, I think we must be ever cautious about managing these risks ahead of us and keep a balanced view with respect to the choices between growth and development and austerity. And this is what I hope that this country will appreciate as we move forward with more confidence to deal with the fiscal challenges of next year.
Minister Dukan, thank you so much. An overlook on the economy. We are resilient, but we will continue to be cautious. His closing comments. We now go straight to the 7 o'clock newscast. Stay with us.